Alright, start. Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work, focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, blah blah blah.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
During the game, you will encounter interactive elements, some of the tributes, and you can also access all the fun facts. Okay, this will be a very straightforward game. But one thing is other camera sensitivity. It's still not good. 110. Wait. Okay. Oh, looks like that is a very clean table, I might say myself. There's a couple of stains, but overall, I've kept it in very immaculate condition. It looks a bit plasticky. Alright.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
It's a bit dramatic, don't you think?
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate.
I did not say anything.
When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
Morphine entered into use in the 19th century and was routinely administered to treat severe pain during the American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, and World War I, 1914 to 1918. It was also sold without restrictions until 1914. Okay, could have used that before the World War I. Whatever. Morphine became more popular after the invention of the hypodermic syringe around 1854. Friedrich Stotorna, who first isolated the substance, originally named it morphium after Morpheus, the Greek god associated with dreams. Pretty fucking smart. Frederick, you are a cheeky bugger. At the time when Dagon was published, morphine abuse, known as soldier's disease, already posed a big problem in the United States. God damn. It's kind of interesting how both the Civil War and World War I only lasted 4 years, you know. Civil War, fucking bunch of losers, you know.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
Oh, cool, I'm on a boat already. Nice environment, pretty. Why am I sitting outside? Who knows? Boom! Oh shit. That's.
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation. So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Cool. The Huns were Central Asian nomads who established dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weapons. During World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Empire. Okay, I should probably drink some more water. In order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on 27th July 1900 before they embarked to China. Should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeited. Just as 1,000 years ago, the Huns under their king Attila made a name for themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed by you in such a way in China that no Chinese will ever again dare to look cross-eyed at a German. Oh, hi. I'm just fucking reading some Lovecraft here. The refusal to take prisoners was a clear breach of the laws and customs of war adopted during the First Hague Convention of 1899. Back. Alright, let's continue the story.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time.
We're very proud of you. Any fucking trivial facts we have here? Nope. Did you just take a plunge?
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator.
Well, probably should have learned that while you were a prisoner.
Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Oh, oh, oh. Star, that's a moon. It's a new free experience based on the works of H.P. Lovecraft. You know that dude.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable
You are
land.
really leaning into this whole luck thing, you know? What? Wait. Graphics. Oh, no motion blur, please. And no anti-aliasing. Let's see if that helps. Really leaning heavily on luck here, dude. So, what do we have here? Alright, let's drink ourselves to death.
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue.
Should have thought this through, to be honest
The
with you.
change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know, for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Oh, it's an octopus. Alright, hey, how's it going, my dude?
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished.
It's not that bad. It's like fucking Death Stranding type of situation here. Why is my OBS so shit? Outputs, DBR, no. Streaming, NVIDIA NVENC, I'm using the new one. And yet, the output looks like shit. I'm playing the game on my screen, my beautiful 144Hz screen. It looks amazing, alright? You can see the fucking freckles on this fucking squid. But for some reason, it just like buffers like crazy in the fucking OBS. It's, what's up with that? I need to learn about the profiles. Rate control, whatever, quality, performance. Let's change to 6.5. 6.5 bit rate. Who knows, maybe that'll help.
For there was in the air, and in the rotting soil, a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core.
And what is that?
The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain.
It's gross.
Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight, save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
Any other historical facts I should know about? Alright, now let's progress. Ugh, God, the fucking war. The fucking sound.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
I'm fucking crazy.
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
Like this slab of metal.
So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
Except for that big monster.
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens.
Alright.
As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time.
Cool.
That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue. On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal. All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
I mean, this is more intriguing than scary, Ashwin. Lots of dead things. Well, let's move on, shall we? I previously played We Went Back, and that was kind of scary. You can, like, I don't know if this is available on Twitch or not, you can rewind. I played We Went Back, which is still a category.
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
Eesh, that's a good thing, right?
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night.
Dude, you are stranded in sea, dude.
But ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy.
Yeah, you're not so smart. I mean, granted, you were
Indeed,
stranded in sea.
I now felt
Your mind
quite
wasn't
able to
working
perform
properly.
the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
Henceforth, let's go. Whatever the words are. Boop. No, wait. Oh, there we go.
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine.
Cool.
I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night.
Well, at least there's
Through
rocks.
my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined. Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
Let's go down even further. Let's go take a trip into the vast unknown, shall we?
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Let's go. Ooh,
That it
it's
was
definitely
merely a
piece-
gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself.
Definitely big.
But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature.
You would guess.
A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express. For despite its enormous magnitude, and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith,
Oh, you think?
whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures.
Maybe.
Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
Boom, let's go. Let's go. We're gonna get so rich off of this, I swear. Oh,
The
hey, water.
moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
That's nice. So, what do we have here? Some fingerprints? An ocean? Alright, let's go.
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books, consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as
Aquatic.
fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world.
Not really. I think I can name some of these off the top of my head.
But whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain.
Alright.
It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Oh, here we go, more trivia. Oh, let's go. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings at the Mountains of Madness, the Nameless City, journals and characters' notes, the Shadow of Time, the Hunter of the Dark, islands emerging from the ocean, the Call of Cthulhu, are fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies. Migu in the Whisper in Darkness. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude the memory similar to Dagon, but let's skip the details in order not to spoil the ending. Yeah, but fucking guy goes crazy and none of this gets solved ever. Yeah.
Plainly visible across the intervening water on account of their enormous size were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men.
Alright, Lovecraft, let's not get too racy over here.
Though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto.
Oh, like mermaids?
Or paying homage at some monolithic shrine, which appeared to be under the waves as well.
Oh, so your first theory is quite true. That this is actually a seabed.
Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer. They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips.
The upper guy looks like the SCP.
Glassy, bulging eyes, and other features
the
less
lower one
pleasant
looks
to
like
recall.
fucking the Cantina alien playing the theme in Star Wars.
Curiously enough,
Alright.
they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background.
I don't see badly.
For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself.
Alright, that's pretty big.
I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe.
Okay.
Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor
tread
of the
carefully
Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born.
Okay.
Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent
I'll cast
channel
you a
before
queer
me.
reflection.
Then, suddenly, I saw, with only a slight churning to mark its
Oh.
rise to the surface,
Oh, there.
the thing
Right.
slid into view above the dark waters. Last,
Whoa! Hello.
loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith,
Yo, what's up?
about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous
That's,
head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
Oh, we're passing out, buddy.
I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
Oh, that's a fucking shame. Oh, let's go.
I believe I sang a great deal, and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
Hi, ho, the pirate's life for me, ho, ho. Alright, let's go.
have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wild.
Oops, I keep pressing when I shouldn't. Oh, I'm going out.
When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital.
Could be worse.
Brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean.
Cool.
In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
Smart. Where are the nurses, huh? Can a guy get some proper
Once
care?
I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Cool, Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon means common noun for grain. Rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquest. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in Assyrian poem and an underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew the word dag means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft's works, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the ocean. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. Yeah, I'm learning a lot about Mesopotamia as of late. Surprisingly, it brings back my high school memories. And I heard the Eternals thing has a really big heart-on for the Mesopotamian era, so there we go. Oh, I see, we're just gonna get some whiskey?
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
August Derleth and the Cthulhu Mythos. August Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works through his company, Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's works after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derleth was a devout Catholic, to the Cthulhu Mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. I see. But I think it's important to take a good look at his works too, and honest to goodness look at his work. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu Mythos was coined by Derleth after the author left the mortal plane. Thanks to you, August, and fuck you, August, for everything that you did. Who? Who keeps fucking farting in the background, huh? I don't appreciate your trumpet farting.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing.
Cool.
I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Alright, let's party, but before that, let's fucking read. Lovecraft on tobacco and alcohol. Lovecraft hated tobacco, even though he used to smoke when he was 12, in order to look and feel like an adult in time. Okay, that's a comma. That's another comma. Alright, let's reread that. Even though he used to smoke when he was 12, in order to look and feel like an adult. In his correspondence with friend Reinhard Kleiner, he claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. Okay. He also had a very strong opinion about alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Zelia Brown. Zelia Brown, dated 13 February 1928. I should drink it. Fucking drink. It's finished. That's not good. As for the matter of drinking, I have never tasted intoxicating liquor and never intend to, having a strong aesthetic disgust at anything which blunts or coarsens the delicate natural equipoise of the evolved human intellect and imagination. ... Drinking excited my personal repugnance, hence I don't drink. Fucking hell, this guy. Let the herd do what they will. I am rather in favor of prohibition. The prohibition of any one anti-social force is well as any out there. Yeah, and we saw what that was like. You know, the prohibition era. Not very sweet. Not very cool. You know, a lot of problems with the prohibition era. Mainly prohibition. Any more factoids that I... Oh, let's do it. Let's pop it up.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man-of-war.
It could very well be that, dude.
This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed.
The music's pretty good.
Worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind.
You'd think you would, want to do that in the middle of a war.
Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
Attack of the kaijus. Oh, let's go.
The end is near.
Ew.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it. It shall not find me.
It's probably your fucking landlord.
God, that hand!
God! Fucking find a doctor, will ya?
Oh. The window! The window!
Oh, right, alright. Let me just scoot over here to the window. Ugh. Oop. Thank you. We hope you enjoy immersing yourself. Oh, there are 2 DLCs. I thought there was only 1. Alright, let's exit this hope. Oh god, there's more trivia that I missed? Look at this. Look at this shit. Find all trivia pieces. Find half of the trivia pieces. I haven't even found half! Right, that was nice. That was an excellent experience, you know? If you, it's like, credits, Spit Golem. Thank you, Hubert Roz. Story by Howard Phillips Lovecraft, 1917. Oh, cool. That's pretty interesting. Oops. I mean, it is free. You work with what you got. And for what it's worth, what they got here is something special.